In a quiet coastal town where the ocean meets endless horizons, two souls found each other in the most ordinary of ways. Daniel, a dedicated Marine officer, and Emma, a devoted physical therapist, crossed paths at a community fundraiser one autumn evening. Emma was immediately drawn to Daniel's quiet confidence and the way his eyes lit up when he spoke about protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. Daniel, in turn, was captivated by Emma's warmth and her genuine care for everyone. Around her dot, their conversations flowed effortlessly that night, as if they'd known each other for years rather than hours. What started as a chance meeting blossomed into something neither of them expected, a connection so profound it felt like coming home. Chapter 2. Building something real over the following months, Daniel and Emma became inseparable. Between Daniel's training schedules, they carved out every possible moment together. Emma learned about Daniel's dreams of making a difference, while Daniel discovered Emma's passion for helping injured athletes recover and reclaim their lives. Their love deepened naturally, like roots growing stronger beneath the surface. One evening, as they walked along the pier at sunset, Daniel took Emma's hand and asked her to be his partner for life. With the ocean breeze surrounding them and tears streaming down her face, Emma said yes. Their wedding was intimate and beautiful, a gathering of their closest loved ones, witnessing two people promise to weather any storm together. Chapter 3. The price of duty. Reality arrived swiftly. 3 months after their wedding, Daniel received deployment orders. The news hit them both hard, but they understood this was part of the life they'd chosen. At the harbor, they held each other close, making promises to write every day and count. Down the moments until reunion, Emma threw herself into her work at the rehabilitation center, channeling her loneliness into helping others heal. During this time, she grew close to Jordan, a colleague who lived nearby. Jordan began helping Emma with things around the house, fixing broken appliances, bringing groceries when she was too tired to shop, keeping her company during the long, empty evenings. What started as neighborly kindness gradually became something Emma looked forward to, a bright spot in the darkness of Daniel's absence. Chapter 4. When lines blurred. 2 years. That's how long Daniel was away. 2 years of letters, brief phone calls, and longing that never quite faded. Emma tried to stay strong, but loneliness has a way of wearing down even the strongest resolve. Jordan's presence became more than just hopeful, it became essential. They shared meals, confided in each other, filled the silence that threatened to swallow Emma whole. She told herself it was just friendship, nothing more, but one rainy evening, after an especially difficult day, the boundaries they'd carefully maintained simply dissolved. In a moment of vulnerability and need, Emma made a choice that would change everything. The guilt was immediate and crushing. She tried to create distance, tried to undo what couldn't be undone. But when she discovered she was pregnant, her world came crashing down. The baby couldn't be Daniel's. The timeline made that impossible. Chapter 5. The truth comes home. Daniel returned to a hero's welcome, his heart full of anticipation. He dreamed of this reunion every single day overseas. But the woman waiting for him wasn't quite the same Emma he'd left behind. Something in her eyes had changed. There was a shadow there he didn't recognize. It took 3 days before Emma broke. She couldn't carry the secret any longer, couldn't look into Daniel's trusting eyes and lie. Through agonizing tears, she told him everything about Jordan, about the loneliness that had consumed her, about the baby growing inside her that wasn't his. Daniel felt his entire world shatter. The man who'd faced danger without flinching found himself unable to breathe, unable to process the betrayal from the person he trusted most in this world. Chapter 6. Navigating the wreckage, the days that followed were the darkest of Daniel's life. Anger, grief, and disbelief warred within him. He would wake in the middle of the night, momentarily forgetting Then remembering and feeling the pain anew, that Emma existed in her own prison of guilt and regret. She destroyed the most precious thing in her life, and she didn't know if it could ever be repaired. Daniel knew he needed answers. He confronted Jordan, not with violence, but with the raw pain of a man trying to understand how his life had fallen apart. Jordan, consumed with his own remorse, explained that it had never been planned, never been about hurting Daniel. It had been two lonely people seeking comfort in the wrong place. The explanation didn't ease Daniel's pain, but it gave him something: context, closure, a small piece of understanding in the chaos. Chapter 7, the hardest decision Daniel faced. An impossible choice. Leave and start over, or stay and try to rebuild from ashes. Every logical voice in his head told him to walk away. His family certainly thought he should. They couldn't understand why he would even consider staying, but love isn't always logical. Despite everything, despite the betrayal that still felt like a fresh wound, Daniel couldn't imagine his life without Emma. Somewhere beneath the anger and hurt, the love that had brought them together still flickered. When baby Sophie arrived, Daniel was there. He held Emma's hand through the labor, and when the tiny infant was placed in his arms, something shifted inside him. This child hadn't asked to be born into such complicated circumstances. She was innocent, perfect, and entirely defenseless. Chapter 8. Choosing the harder path. Recovery wasn't linear. There were good days and terrible days. Daniel would look at Sophie and feel love, then guilt for feeling love, then anger that he felt guilty at all. The emotions were a tangled knot he couldn't unravel. Emma and Daniel started counseling together and separately. In those sessions, they learned to communicate the things they'd never said before. Daniel expressed the depth of his betrayal and his fear that he'd never fully trust again. Emma shared the crushing loneliness she'd felt and her desperate wish to turn back time. Their therapist helped them understand that healing would be a choice they'd have to make every single day. Sometimes every single hour. They set firm boundaries with Jordan, who respectfully moved across town, understanding that his presence made healing impossible. The distance helped Daniel breathe a little easier. Chapter 9. Finding the way back slowly. Slowly, it was barely perceptible, things began to shift. Emma proved her commitment through actions, not just words. She was transparent about everything, patient with Daniel's difficult moments, and unwavering in her determination to rebuild what she'd broken. Daniel worked on forgiveness, not because Emma deserved it, but because carrying the anger was destroying him. He began to see Emma not just as the person who'd betrayed him, but as someone who'd made a terrible mistake and was genuinely trying to be better. His bond with Sophie deepened naturally. She knew no other father, and as she grew, Daniel couldn't imagine loving her any less than if she shared his DNA. She was his daughter in every way that mattered. Chapter 10. Rebuilding on new ground. Emma and Daniel created new traditions, new memories untainted by the past. They took Sophie on weekend adventures, hosted game nights, laughed together again, really laughed. Not the forced kind that had characterized the early months. They renewed their vows on their 5th anniversary, this time with Sophie present, a toddler twirling in a flower girl dress. The ceremony was small but profound. Their vows were different this time, tempered by hardship, strengthened by survival, deepened by forgiveness. Daniel promised to choose their family every day, even on the hard days. Emma promised to honor the second chance she'd been given and to spend her life proving worthy of the forgiveness she'd received. Chapter 11. The life they built. Years passed. Sophie grew into a bright, curious child surrounded by love. Daniel and Emma built a life that wasn't perfect, but was theirs earned through pain, forgiveness, and unwavering commitment. They learned that love isn't just the butterflies and romance of new relationships. Real love is choosing each other when it would be easier to walk away. It's forgiving the unforgivable. It's building something new from broken pieces and finding that what emerges is stronger for having been tested. On quiet evenings, when Sophie was asleep and the house was still, Daniel and Emma would sit together on their porch, overlooking the ocean. Sometimes they talked about the past, acknowledging the pain without letting it define them. More often, they talked about the future Sophie's upcoming school play, the vacation they were planning, the ordinary beautiful details of their extraordinary journey. Their story wasn't a fairy tale. It was something rarer and more valuable. Testament to human resilience, the power of forgiveness, and the truth that love, real love, doesn't just happen. It's built day by day, choice by choice. Even when those choices are impossibly hard, Daniel and Emma's love survived not because it was easy, but because they decided it was worth fighting for. And in the end, that made all the difference.